Okay, we're going to quickly review the R script for an assignment that involved analysis of exports of gold and cotton from a handful of West African countries. The data set that we have for this is given here, and this data set was downloaded from comtrade.un.org, which is the United Nations reporting office for international trade. And here's the link here on the assignment, or if you're just looking at this on YouTube, you can go there. They have the code to download export data from the Comtrade. So we already have a data set loaded for the countries and the years that we want. And so we're going to load it in. There's only 4 variables that we're going to use. Variable trade flow that tells us whether the value that we're observing is for imports or for exports. Commodity code, which is the code for the commodity. In this data set, there's just 3 codes. 2 are for cotton and 1's for gold. Then we have a variable called commodity, which is the name of the commodity. And then the actual value is this variable trade.value ... First thing we might do, right, is recode that variable to get rid of all of those dots once we load in the data set. We're going to do very simple things with this data set. We're going to generate a table just of summary statistics, and then we're going to generate plots of how gold exports change over time for the various countries using ggplot. And of course, since we have 2 codes for cotton, we need to collapse the data set to add those 2 cotton units up, because we might be exporting cotton seed or cotton oil or cotton cloth or raw cotton, different kinds of cotton. And the idea here, the lesson here in coding, is how to collapse those up so that we add them up so that each country for each year has 1 value of cotton and 1 value of gold. And then we can also estimate the growth rate of cotton and gold exports over the years for these countries. And then take our script and turn it into a markdown script and generate a nice knitted report. That's the idea here. So if we take a look at the script that I've given you as sort of the answer script, we start out as usual. Remember to document your script nice and neat. Title should have, you know, where this is from, what the dates are. A session, first part should be the settings, packages, and all that stuff. So it's real clear. These are all our usual commands for our settings. And then we read in the data set. For our data set, which this is already, we just use the command load. And here we see our data set, 833 observations for 35 variables. And we see that the variable reporter is the variable for the country. We have our variable commodity code here, then our commodity. We can see that the 2 codes are cotton seeds and cotton. And then we have the value down over there at the end. There's our value for all the countries. And yeah, so that's all we have for our data. Most of the variables we're not using in this data set. So that was also, you know, just to confuse you a little bit and see that you have to focus on what you have to focus on. The problem set gives you what the variables are to focus on. The rest is all extraneous. You could use the select function in Dippler to drop all of those or the subset function in regular R and drop all of them. We're going to do a quick table just to see the country names, and we see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 countries, and then we see that Côte d'Ivoire, that's not how Côte d'Ivoire is spelled, and you, me, everybody should know that's a problem when the data was read in from another computer system. The Unicode for translating characters translated this badly, and so we need to change that to have the correct spelling of the country. Otherwise, people would be very upset. Then just for looking at the data, we can do a summary by table. So we have the trade value by reporter for the subset of just the exports and just the commodity code 7108, which you can easily see is the commodity code for gold. And then this summary by will have the, we're going to add them all up. So here we get the cotton producers, this is gold, sorry, the gold producers, and we see that Ghana is former colony, right? That was called Gold Coast, is the biggest gold exporter. Burkina Faso and Mali in tight tie pretty much for second place of gold exporters in West Africa. And then we have the summary by for cotton, and we see that Burkina Faso was the largest value cotton exporter, followed closely by Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Mali, and we also notice that Guinea and Senegal, you know, and Ghana, these are very small cotton exporters. The other countries are 10 times more than these countries. So when we're doing the graph, we might just drop those countries since they're really not exporting very much. I mean, it looks like a big number, but compared with the other countries, it's really a very small number. So here's how we change the name of Cote d'Ivoire. So we use piping. So we take the ex-Comtrade data set, we pipe it, then we mutate the variable reporter to be if-else. If the value of reporter is this weird spelling of Cote d'Ivoire, then we change it to Cote d'Ivoire. And if it's not that weird spelling of Cote d'Ivoire, then we just leave it as reporter. So we can quickly run that. Then we're going to create, and it's still in our data manipulation. So I'm just going to, we don't have to do it this way, but this is the way I'm going to do it, is we're going to create two data sets, exports gold and export cotton. Export gold is going to be the subset of exports of gold, and then we'll collapse the data set to be the trade value by the reporter, by year, and by the exports. In this case, we don't need to do that since we're doing it by, we only have one value for the export, so I'll take that out. Maybe I won't, because then you'll get confused later. You could take it out if you wanted to. And we're going to add up the exports of gold. And then we're going to divide them by 1,000,000, just so that we don't have all these zeros in our graph. So I will run through that, and I will run through the same thing for cotton. So now we have two data sets, one for gold, one for cotton, and then we do our plots. So we take the data set export gold, we pipe it in, we're going to filter out the countries that really didn't have any gold exports, then we pass that onto ggplot. We have the year on the x-axis, export value on the y-axis. We group them by color, and we color code we group them by country, and we color code them by country name. We can do a whole bunch of options to make it look prettier, but we'll just run this and see that we get our nice looking graph. I think I can zoom it here, make it bigger. Notice how I move the legend inside the graph rather than outside. That I have so much blank space there on the graph that it makes sense to put the legend inside rather than outside. Notice that because I divided by millions, these numbers are smaller. So this is 7,000 million, so $7 billion worth of gold exported from Ghana. And then we do the same thing for, notice that I just need to click anywhere in this command and hit run. I don't need to highlight the whole thing. So we get the exports. And again, if we look at the zoomed version, we can see Burkina Faso. And exports of cotton are fluctuating a lot more, not as steady as gold. Gold is rising because the price of gold is rising, and the countries are exporting more and more gold as the price is rising. Cotton fluctuates due to weather and due to price every year, so there's more fluctuations in cotton. Finally, we can estimate the growth rate. We'll do two regressions, one with the value of exports as log and the year as the explanatory variable. So these are log linear regressions, just the way we learned it in Econ 4142. But then we can also add a reporter as a factor variable in these regressions and control for the fact that every country is on a different, kind of a different time path. So we run all four regressions. let me just run them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how we call the regressions reg 1, reg 2, reg 3. So that shows up here in our environment window. And then we use Stargazer to display the regressions. There's different ways we could display them. We could just do summary reg 1, and we get the default, I didn't call it reg 1. We'll get the default reg 1, or we could use Stargazer to have a nice display. And we see that the growth rates for cotton are about 2%. If we control for the countries, it's 1.5%. For gold, if we control for the countries, it's 19% a year. So doubling every 4 years or so. Gold exports have been over this 25-year time period.